picture a brutal winter night in 1861 on the Llano Estacado, where a Comanche chief, Tahuya, revered for outwitting Texas Rangers, lay dying. Not from battle wounds, but a silent poison stealing his soul after every meal. Eliza Crow, a white widow captive, her hands scarred from frontier graves, saw the truth in a tainted bowl of broth. She was a prisoner with nothing left but her defiance. He was a leader betrayed by his own blood. One whispered truth could save a tribe or bury them all. Could a woman with no reason to care rewrite a warrior's fate? This story's ending will leave you breathless, with a twist that's moved millions to tears. Hit subscribe, share your city in the comments, and stay until the final spark of the council fire. Will justice prevail, or will betrayal win? Let's uncover the secret together. The wind howled across the Llano Estacado like a pack of starving wolves, slicing through the Comanche camp with blades of ice. It was the winter of 1861, and the Texas plains lay under a sky as gray as gunmetal, the horizon swallowed by a thin veil of snow dust. Buffalo hide teepees stood in tight clusters near a half-frozen creek, their smoke holes spitting faint curls of warmth into the frigid air. The camp was a fortress of survival, but a shadow hung heavier than the cold. Chief Tahuya, the man who'd outrun Texas Rangers and scalp hunters, was dying. Inside the largest teepee, Tahuya lay on a bed of furs, his once mighty frame shrunken, his bronze skin sallow. His black hair, streaked with gray from battles and buffalo hunts, clung damply to his skull. At 40 winters, he should have been in his prime, but his hawk-sharp eyes flickered with confusion, and his breath came in shallow rasps. He'd been fading for weeks, each meal leaving him weaker, his moments of clarity drowned by hours of delirium. The tribe called it a curse. The medicine man, Maka, an old vulture of a figure with a face carved by 70 years, knelt beside him, grinding herbs in a stone bowl. His hands trembled, not from age, but from dread. "Eat, great chief," Maka urged in Comanche, his voice gravelly. "The spirits test you, but you must fight." Tahuya tried to speak, but a wave of nausea choked him, his body betraying the warrior who'd once split a cavalry line with a single charge. Outside, the camp buzzed with unease. Women scraped hides with flint knives, their hands moving fast to outpace the cold. Warriors sharpened arrows, their low voices trading whispers of omans. The young ones, restless as coyotes, gathered around Hokaren, Tahuya's half-brother. Hokaren was lean and tall, his eyes burning with a hunger for war. His braid swung as he paced, his words sharp as obsidian. "Tahuya spares the whites, and now the ancestors turn from us. Look at him, wasting away while settlers steal our land." The warriors nodded, their loyalty fraying. Hokaran's past gnawed at him. Tahuya had saved him from a Texas noose years ago, but that debt now fueled his ambition. He saw a throne in his brother's shadow, and the camp's fear was his kindling. At the camp's edge, in a small teepee under guard, Eliza Crow sat on hard earth, her wrists raw from rawhide bindings. At 35, she was no stranger to loss, her husband dead from fever, her wagon train slaughtered by Comanche raiders months ago. Her brown hair, once neatly braided, hung in tangles, but her green eyes held a glint of defiance. She'd survived frontier forts, nursed soldiers through blood and dysentery, and buried men killed by cures laced with poison. Now, she watched the Comanche with a predator's patience, piecing together their language, their rhythms. Eliza wasn't broken. She was a blade tempered by grief. Ayana, an older Comanche woman with kind eyes, brought Eliza to Tahuya's teepee to wash bloodied cloths. The air inside was thick with sage and sickness. Eliza's gaze darted to the chief, his tremors, his clammy skin, the way his strength ebbed after every meal. She'd seen this before, in a fort where a soldier died slowly, his coffee tainted by a traitor's hand. The smell of Tahuya's broth, sharp and metallic, hit her like a rifle crack. Poison. The word burned in her mind, but she bit her tongue. A white captive accusing a Comanche chief's kin? That was a death sentence. As she scrubbed the cloths, Eliza caught Hokaren's shadow outside, his voice low, rallying his men. She overheard fragments, his scorn for Tahuya's mercy, his dreams of raids. Her pulse quickened. If Tahuya was being poisoned, Hokaren stood to gain. But proof was a long way off, and the wrong word would see her throat slit by dawn. Ayana watched her, sensing something. "Work, white woman," she said in halting English, but her tone wasn't cruel. Eliza nodded, her mind racing. She wasn't here to save anyone. She was here to survive. Yet the chief's hollow eyes haunted her, and the metallic tang of that broth wouldn't let her rest. Back in her teepee, under the faint glow of moonlight through the smoke hole, Eliza lay awake, the wind's wail her only company. She traced the scars on her hands, each one a story of loss. Speak, and she'd die. Stay silent, and Tahuya would. Either way, the plains didn't care. But something in her, stubborn, unyielding, whispered that truth was worth the risk. Tomorrow she'd watch closer. Tomorrow she'd find a way. The moonlight faded, but Eliza's resolve burned brighter than the embers of the Comanche camp's dying fires. The Llano Estacado's wind still screamed, a restless spirit haunting the plains as dawn broke in streaks of iron gray. Winter 1861 tightened its grip, snow dust swirling like ash over the teepees. Eliza's wrists chafed under rawhide, her breath fogging in the cramped captive's lodge, but her mind was a steel trap, locked on the metallic stink of Tahuya's broth. She'd seen death dressed as medicine before, forts reeking of betrayal, and now the chief's hollowed face was a mirror of those ghosts. Today, she'd hunt for proof, or the plains would claim another soul. The camp stirred under a sky heavy with frost. Women hauled water from the creek, their hands red from cold, while warriors checked horse lines, their murmurs sharp with talk of omens. Hokaren's voice cut through the morning, rallying his young wolves near the horse corral. His braids gleamed with bear grease, his gestures wide as he mocked Tahuya's cowardice toward settlers. "The whites take our rivers, and our chief offers words," he spat, his followers' eyes glinting with restless fire. Eliza, fetching wood under Ayana's watchful gaze, caught every word. Hokaren's ambition wasn't just talk. It was a noose tightening around Tahuya's neck. Ayana led her to the cooking fires, where the air smelled of cornmeal and sage. Eliza's task was grinding maize, but her eyes were on the food stores, a low hide structure guarded by a scar-faced warrior named Kyle. He was Hokaren's man, his loyalty as clear as the knife at his belt. Kyle handled Tahuya's meals, delivering broth to the chief's teepee with a reverence that felt staged. Eliza noticed how he lingered, watching Maka feed Tahuya, his gaze flicking to Hokaren across the camp. Her gut twisted. Kyle was the link, the hand slipping death into the chief's bowl. She worked closer to the stores, her hand steady despite the cold biting her knuckles. The maize dust coated her fingers as she stole glances at Kyle. Midday brought her chance. Ayana sent her to fetch dried venison from the stores. Kyle stood at the entrance, his shadow long and menacing, but his attention drifted to a group of warriors arguing over a horse trade. Eliza slipped inside, her heart pounding like a war drum. The stores were dim, smelling of smoked meat and herbs. On a low shelf, she spotted a small leather pouch, its tie loose, tucked behind a sack of corn. She lifted it, her fingers brushing a fine powder inside, gray flecked with green. The metallic tang hit her nose, White snake root. She'd seen it kill cattle in forts, its poison slow and cruel, perfect for a murder disguised as sickness. Footsteps crunched outside. Eliza palmed the pouch, tucking it into her torn sleeve, and grabbed the venison just as Cale's silhouette filled the doorway. "Move, white dog," he growled, his eyes narrowing. She kept her face blank, her pulse a hammer in her throat, and shuffled past. Back at the fires, she ground maize with mechanical rhythm, the pouch a burning weight against her skin. She needed to test it. But how? A captive couldn't wander, and Kyle's stare followed her like a hawk tracking a rabbit. Ayanna's voice broke her thoughts. "You watch too much," she said in broken English, her eyes curious, not cruel. Eliza hesitated, then whispered, "The chief's food. It's wrong." Ayanna's face tightened, but she didn't speak. Eliza saw a crack. Ayanna knew something, maybe the same unease gnawing at her own heart. Before she could press, Hokaran strode past, his gaze slicing through her. "Keep her working, Ayanna," he snapped. "No trouble from whites." His confidence was a blade, and Eliza knew time was slipping. That night, under guard in her teepee, Eliza lay on the frozen ground, the pouch hidden in her bodice. She traced its outline, her mind racing. The poison was proof, but using it meant facing Hokaran's wrath. She needed an ally, someone to hear a captive's truth. Ayanna's face flashed in her mind, those kind eyes, that flicker of doubt. But trust was a gamble, and the stakes were her life. Outside, the wind howled, and Hokaran's laughter echoed from the warrior's fire. Tomorrow, the council fire would burn. Tomorrow, she'd decide. Speak, or let the poison win. The council fire loomed like a reckoning, its flames waiting to judge the living and the dead. Eliza clutched the poison pouch against her chest, its weight a silent vow as the Llano Estacado's night gave way to a dawn sharp with frost. Winter 1861 had no mercy. The plains a frozen anvil under a sky of bruised clouds. The Comanche camp pulsed with tension, the air thick with the scent of pine smoke and unspoken betrayal. Eliza's gamble, trusting Ayanna with a whisper of the truth, had bought her time, but not safety. Today, she'd face the fire, and the truth would either free her or burn her alive. The camp woke with a predator's edge. Warriors oiled their bows, their eyes darting to Hokaran's lodge, where his voice already stirred the young braves. Women stoked fires, their hands quick but wary, sensing the tribe's fracture. Eliza, under Cale's glare, hauled water from the creek, her movements deliberate to hide the pouch now tied beneath her skirt. Ayanna worked nearby, her silence heavy with unspoken questions. Eliza caught her glance, a flicker of trust, fragile as a sparrow's wing. She needed Ayanna to believe, but words were dangerous, and Kyle's shadow was never far. By midday, the council fire was set, a great pyre at the camp's heart, its flames licking the cold air. The elders, faces weathered like canyon stone, formed a circle, their eagle feathers swaying. Tahuya was carried in, his body frail but his eyes still sharp, glinting with a warrior's will. Maka chanted low, his herbs smoldering, while Hokaran stood tall, his braids gleaming, his voice bold as he addressed the tribe. "Our chief fades, and the whites grow bolder," he declared, his words a spark to dry grass. "The spirits demand a new path, war, not words." The young warriors roared, but the elders' faces stayed grim, their loyalty to Tahuya a fading ember. Eliza, tethered at the circle's edge, felt the crowd's heat like a noose. She scanned for Ayanna, finding her among the women, her eyes locked on Tahuya's trembling hands. Eliza's chance came when Kyle brought the chief's broth, his movements too careful, his glance to Hokaran too quick. She edged closer, her heart a hammer, and sniffed the steam. Sharp, metallic, the same death she'd smelled before. Her fingers brushed the pouch, ready to act, but Kale's hand clamped her wrist. "Stay still, white rat," he hissed, his knife glinting. Ayanna saw, her face tightening, but she didn't move. The fire crackled as Hokaren's speech peaked, his fist thrust. "The ancestors judged Tahuya weak," he shouted. At that moment, Tahuya rose, swaying, his voice a rasp. "I am not done," he said, but his knees buckled, and he collapsed, foam at his lips, his body convulsing. The crowd gasped, warriors drawing blades, elders shouting for Maka. Hokaren seized the chaos, stepping forward. "The spirits have spoken," he roared. "Tahuya's time is over." The young braves surged, their loyalty his, the camp teetering on blood. Eliza's blood ran cold, but her resolve was iron. She tore free of Kale, her voice cutting through the din in broken Comanche. "Not spirits! Poison!" she shouted, holding the broth bowl high, its steam curling like a ghost. The crowd froze, eyes wide. "This kills him, not the gods!" Kyle lunged, but Ayanna shoved him back, her cry sharp. "Let her speak!" The elders turned, Chaitan's voice rising. "What proof, white woman?" Eliza's hands shook, but she poured a drop from the bowl onto the ground, its metallic reek rising. "White snake root," she said. "I've seen it kill. Check his food. Now." Hokaren's face darkened, his hand twitching toward his knife. "Lies from a captive," he snarled, but his voice cracked, and the elders saw it. Maka snatched the bowl, sniffing, his eyes widening. "She speaks true," he muttered. The crowd murmured, doubt spreading like wildfire. Eliza's heart raced. She'd lit the fuse, but the explosion was coming. Hokaren's men closed in, their blades glinting, and she knew she'd pushed too far. If this tale of courage and betrayal grips you, hit that subscribe button and share your city below. It keeps stories like Eliza's alive. Stay with us, because the fire's about to burn hotter, and the truth might cost everything. Kyle's knife hovered, Hokaren's eyes burned, and Tahuya's gasps faded. Eliza stood alone, the pouch her only weapon, the council fire her judge. She'd spoken, but would the tribe listen? Or would her blood stain the snow before dusk? The council fire roared, its flames a jury casting shadows like vultures over the Comanche camp. Eliza stood defiant, the poison pouch her shield, as Hokaren's men circled, their knives gleaming under the Llano Estacado's dawn. Winter 1861 bore down, the snow-dusted plains a silent witness to a tribe on the brink. Tahuya's gasps were faint, his life hanging by a thread, while Maka's words, "She speaks true," still echoed, sowing doubt among the elders. Eliza had ignited a spark, but the fire could consume her. Hokaren's glare was a blade, and Coel's knife hovered too close. Truth was her weapon, but it might not be enough. Blood pounded in Eliza's ears as she faced the crowd, her voice steady despite the rawhide biting her wrists. "Test the broth," she urged in halting Comanche, pointing to the bowl Maka held. "Smell it! Death, not sickness!" Chaitan, the eldest, his face like weathered cedar, raised a hand, silencing the warrior's clamor. "Bring it," he commanded. Maka passed the bowl, and Chaitan inhaled, his eyes narrowing at the metallic sting. The crowd hushed, the wind's howl the only sound, carrying the reek of white snake root across the fire. "This is no natural ill," Chaitan said, his voice low but heavy as iron. "Speak, woman. What else do you know?" Eliza's throat tightened, but she pressed on, her words measured. "I saw Kale add powder from a pouch, Hokaren's pouch. It's in his food, every day. Slow enough to look like a curse." Kale snarled, lunging forward, but two elders blocked him, their spears crossed. Hokaren stepped into the firelight, his braids swinging, his face a mask of fury. "This white dog spins lies to tear us apart," he roared. "She's a settler's witch, poisoning our minds." His men shouted agreement, their hands on weapons, but the elder's silence held the camp in a fragile grip. Ayanna pushed through the crowd, her eyes fierce. "I saw Kyle hide something in the stores," she said, her voice cutting the tension like a flint blade. The white woman watched what we ignored. The crowd murmured, loyalty splintering. Eliza seized the moment, pulling the pouch from her skirt and tossing it at Chaitan's feet. "This is the poison," she said. "White snake root, ground fine. I took it from Kyle." Maka knelt, sniffing the powder, his face paling. "It's true," he whispered. "This kills silently, as she says." Hokaran's composure cracked, his hand jerking to his knife. "You trust a captive over your own?" He spat, but his voice wavered, and Chaitan saw it. A flicker of guilt. "Enough!" the elder barked. "Kyle, speak!" Kyle's scar-twisted face twitched, his eyes darting to Hokaran. I only followed orders," he stammered, and the crowd gasped, the truth a spark in dry grass. Hokaran's hand froze, his men hesitating, their blades half-drawn. The fire popped, sending embers skyward, and Eliza felt the tide shift, but not enough to save her. Chaitan turned to Tahuya, still trembling on his furs. "Chief, can you hear us?" Tahuya's eyes, clouded but fierce, locked on Eliza. "Let her speak," he rasped, each word a battle. Hokaran lunged forward, his knife flashing. "He's too weak to lead," he shouted, but Ayanna and another woman grabbed his arms, their strength born of rage. The elders rose, spears leveled, and the young warriors faltered, caught between loyalty and doubt. Eliza's heart hammered. She was alive, but the camp was a powder keg, and Hokaran's desperation was the match. Maka, his hands shaking, mixed herbs to counter the poison, forcing a bitter paste into Tahuya's mouth. "If we act now, he may live," he said, but his voice held no promise. Eliza watched, her mind racing. She'd exposed the plot, but Hokaran's men still outnumbered the elder's guard. If they fought, blood would soak the snow. She spoke again, her voice clear. "Hokaran wants war, war that'll burn this tribe to ash. Tahuya chose peace to save you. Who do you follow?" The crowd stirred, some warriors lowering their blades, others glaring at Hokaran. Hokaran's eyes blazed, but he was cornered. "You'll all die under Tahuya's weakness," he spat, wrenching free. He grabbed Kyle, shoving him toward the elders. "Judge him then, but I'll lead us to glory." The crowd parted, some cheering, others silent, as Hokaran's fate hung in the balance. Eliza's legs shook, the pouch empty, her strength spent. The fire's heat stung her face, but colder still was the truth. She'd saved Tahuya, but the tribe might tear itself apart before he woke. The tribe teetered on a razor's edge, Hokaran's defiance a spark, ready to ignite the Comanche camp into chaos. The council fire's embers hissed under the Llano Estacado's dawn, snowflakes falling like ash on a wound. Winter 1861 held its breath, the plains a frozen judge as Eliza stood, her strength drained, but her eyes unyielding. Tahuya's faint pulse was a fragile thread, Maka's herbs his last hope. Hokaran's men gripped their knives, loyalty fraying, while the elders' spears held firm. The truth had cut deep, but justice was a ghost, and Eliza knew one wrong move could drown the camp in blood. Chaitan's voice boomed, heavy as a falling axe. "Hokaran, you stand accused by your own kin's words." He pointed to Kyle, trembling under the elder's gaze, his confession a noose around Hokaran's neck. The scar-faced warrior's eyes darted, but Hokaran shoved him forward, his voice venomous. "You betray me now, coward?" Kyle's stammer broke. "You gave me the powder, said it was for the tribe's future. The crowd recoiled, warriors stepping back, their blades lowering as truth gutted Hokaren's cause. Ayana's glare burned, her hands clenched, a mother's fury for a chief she'd raised like a son. Hokaren's face twisted, a cornered wolf baring teeth. "Tahuya's weakness will kill us all," he roared, but the elders closed ranks, their spears a wall. Chiton raised his hand, his eagle feathers stark against the gray sky. "You poisoned your brother, your chief. The spirits see you." The crowd murmured, some young braves still loyal, their eyes torn between Hokaren's fire and Tahuya's legacy. Eliza watched, her breath shallow, the empty pouch a hollow victory. She'd unmasked the traitor, but the camp's heart was splitting. Maka knelt by Tahuya, his gnarled hand steady as he forced more antidote past the chief's lips. A faint cough broke the silence. Tahuya's eyes fluttered, his chest rising stronger. "He lives," Maka whispered, and the elders exhaled, their resolve hardening. Chiton turned to Hokaren. "You and Kyle will face the council's judgment. Speak or be silent forever." Hokaren's shoulders sagged, his knife clattering to the snow. "I did it for the Comanche," he muttered, his voice hollow. "War is our only path. Tahuya's peace will bury us." The admission was a blade, severing his claim to leadership. The elders convened, their voices low, the fire's crackle a grim chorus. Eliza stood back, her wrists still bound, Ayana at her side. The older woman's hand brushed hers, a silent thanks, but Eliza felt no triumph. The tribe's rift was a wound no herb could heal. After tense minutes, Chiton spoke. "Hokaren, Kyle, you are exiled. Leave by dusk or die as traitors." The crowd parted, some warriors spitting at Hokaren's feet, others slipping away to join him, their footsteps crunching in the snow. Hokaren's eyes met Eliza's, not with hatred, but with a cold promise of return. He and Kale vanished into the plains, a dozen braves trailing, their shadows swallowed by the storm. Tahuya stirred, his voice a rasp. "White woman, come." Eliza knelt, her heart steady despite the eyes on her. "You saw what we could not," he said, his gaze piercing. "You are free." The words were a weight lifted, but Eliza felt the camp's divide like a scar. She'd saved a chief, but lost a tribe's unity. Maka unbound her wrists, his nod a rare honor. The women, once her guards, offered her a blanket, their silence a grudging respect. As winter deepened, Eliza stayed, teaching Maka to spot white snakeroot in the wild, its green-flecked stalks a silent killer. She showed the women how to test food, her frontier cures blending with Comanche ways. Tahuya grew stronger, his frame filling out, but his eyes carried a new shadow, the cost of betrayal. The camp moved to a sheltered valley, the plains cold, unrelenting. Word came through traders. Hokaren and Kyle roamed north, shunned by other bands, their names cursed. Eliza felt no pity, only the weight of survival. When spring's first thaw broke in 1862, Eliza packed a horse Tahuya gifted her, its hide marked with Comanche symbols. She rode out, the plains stretching endless, her scars a map of truths won and lost. The camp watched her go, silent but for Ayana's raised hand. Around Comanche fires, her story would linger, not a triumph, but a warning. Justice comes from the fearless, even a woman with nothing but truth. Tahuya lived, but the plains whispered of wars to come, and Eliza carried that weight into the horizon. What did you feel as Eliza rode into the Llano Estacado's horizon, carrying the weight of truth? Was her courage worth the tribe's scars? Drop your thoughts and city in the comments. I'd love to hear your take. Your support keeps these tales alive, and I'm grateful for every moment you spend here. Want to know what becomes of Tahuya's tribe, or where Eliza's path leads. Let me know for a part 2. Until then, keep the fire burning, and I'll see you on the next trail.